first seminar that ends on time?
Mine ended 8 minutes early to allow the next person to
Thank you. Star, you were fantastic yesterday. Good morning. So we're talking about money this morning, which is a very important topic because I'm pretty sure that's why we all work, right? My name is Dianna Greene, for those of you I have not met. And it's weird to say, okay, why is Dianna from Kettle One talking about money, right? There's actually a reason. I have a little bit of an education in this. When I graduated from college, I have a degree in business with an emphasis in finance and investments. I worked for Merrill Lynch for about 5 years. And I managed people's money. I managed their retirement. I was 21, and I had to convince people that they should trust their life savings with me. I wore glasses, I wore like super like tailored suits, and I wore brooches all the time, hair pulled back. Yeah, so I was like the super like corporate professional, pantyhose and heels and all of that, right? And it's pretty amazing to think about how people feel about money. Money is a difficult topic to talk about, right? You don't want to tell people you don't have money. You don't want to tell people you have a lot of money. And you don't know what to do with your money sometimes, right? So it's really about today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you a little bit of a basis of how to save your money, how to prepare for your future, and how to follow your dreams. Because a little bit of money in the bank makes us all feel much better, right? So a little personal story on my own finances. I went to school, I got myself through school with credit cards. I bought my books with credit cards. I traveled on credit cards. I did everything with my credit cards. When I was 25, I had $35,000 in credit card debt. I was literally robbing Peter to pay Paul on those credit cards. I was transferring balances. I was like paying minimum payments. It was horrific because when I started at Merrill Lynch, I was making $24,000 a year. That was the starting salary then. Because you're like, oh, well, your potential is unlimited, right? So you're like, I was making less money my first year working at Merrill Lynch than I did all through college, working part-time. And I'm like, oh fuck, this sucks. I like couldn't take $20 out of my bank account sometimes. I couldn't buy Taco Bell. Oh my God, I can't even afford Taco Bell. And I had to pretend like I had enough money and wear these suits and take my customers and clients out to beautiful lunches and dinners. And I had to do all these things, right, to build my business. So as I built my business, I got a little bit better at it. I started paying down my debt, like as much as I possibly could all the time. And then an opportunity came up to work for No Let Spirits USA, or Kettle One Vodka. And I went, fuck, this isn't even a real job. Literally, I literally said this. My friend called me from college and he said, there's this job at Kettle One Vodka managing events out of New York City. And I was like, I've always wanted to move to Wall Street, let's move to New York. And that did not happen. I interviewed and I fell in love with the Nolet family. I literally got to interview with Carl Nolet Jr., 11th generation owner, and I said, you know what, this could be a cool job. I've always wanted to travel. I grew up in Southern California. I've always been in Southern California. And I was like, I want to see the country. I want to go to these events and these parties. And after a couple of interviews and processes over, I ended up taking a job and leaving all my clients at Merrill Lynch that I built up so much work to build up. And one of the most important things that I did before I left is I spent 2 weeks transitioning my clients to other financial advisors because I didn't want to leave them just out of the blue because they entrusted me with their personal futures, with their dreams, with their children's education, with their retirement, with the idea that they could go on great vacations. So they trusted me with their money. And I didn't want to just be like, see ya, out of here, good luck with this new person. I literally introduced them personally to the financial advisors in my office that I thought would be the best match for them. So when we're talking about money, there's a reason we like money because it provides some of our basic needs, right? Food, breathing, water, shelter, clothes, sleep. Apparently this room needs sleep right now, so you guys all slept last night. So the idea is, okay, these are all things that are pretty easy to get done most of the time, right? Food, we can feed ourselves. You know, we're all making enough money to do that. And then safety and security. So this is when your health comes into play and your job security, right? Your property, your family, your social stability. This is a social stable place, right? USBG. It's community, right? This is something that we're doing as a community. It gives us stability in our careers. It gives us stability as a community. So basic needs. You gotta have a little bit of money to meet these basic needs, right? Food, shelter, clean water. Those are all important things. But as you get to the point where you can find yourself in a financial free spot where you're not worried about money, you're not stressed about it, then you start to get into more of the psychological needs of love and belonging. So you're a much better friend, you're a much better family member when you're not stressed about your money all the time, right? When you're not thinking, how am I gonna make my rent this month? When you're thinking about, how in the world am I gonna get by, right? So self-esteem, confidence, your ability to interact with others, achievement, respect, and really kind of your self-identity can be achieved a lot easier when you have the ability to not stress about money. And then self-fulfillment, really that self-actualization and whatnot, right? So this is kind of like living your dreams, finding your passions. And all of these things are easier when you've got a little bit of money in the bank and you're not stressing about how to pay your bills, right? So one of the things that my boss asked me when I proposed this seminar was, how the fuck does this relate to Kettle One? So one, we are having a green Bloody Mary with Kettle One Citron. The back of the house staff did an amazing job of building this mix for us. Is everybody enjoying it? Yes. Also made with Kettle One Citron. So not only are you having a great homemade mix built by the back of the house staff, but you're also having a great vodka built by the Nolet family. So we like to use Kettle One Citron in our Bloody Marys because not only is it start with Kettle One and made of pot stills, but then it's infused with the essential oils of 6 different lemons and limes from around the world. So it's all natural. The Nolet family really spent about 7 years developing the recipe, which is an insane amount of time. So really searching out the right essential oils to go into this. So here's the recipe if anybody would like it. Not very complicated, but delicious. And finally, because y'all got t-shirts that say vodka pays the bills, because it's true, right? It's very true for me. Vodka literally pays my bills. But vodka pays your bills too, right? Behind the bar. Vodka is the most consumed category in the States. It's 33% of the US market, right? It's 33% of the global market almost as well. So we're talking about a huge category. People love vodka. It's easy to drink, it's very versatile. There's a lot of uses for vodka. And it's always interesting to me. I actually had it happen last night. I don't drink vodka. You know, especially the bartender treating. You know, I'm not really into vodka. That's fine. I don't care, but you're gonna serve it, right? That's fine with me. But you can find some great ways to use vodka, of course. So let's dive into some of the kind of basic money details, right? So I wanted to try to relate this to the industry. So when you think about the what of the what of money, right? This is like the overall bar industry. This is, you know, bars and everything kind of in that upper level. So you have income. What is income? It's the money you make, right? It's the money you get paid, right? What are your expenses? Money you spend on the things that you need, right? Or want, or don't need, right? So when we look at expenses, you basically have 2 types of expenses. You have fixed and variable. So fixed expenses, rent, car payment, insurance, necessities, cable, water, cell phone. What else? Internet, cable, internet. I'm all there now, right? Golf?
Student loans.
Student loans, yeah, loans. Any loan payments you have? Mortgage, right? All of those things, right? All fixed expenses. Property taxes, if you have a property, can be slightly variable, but it's pretty consistent. All right, variable. What are our variable expenses?
Food,
clothing, spearmint rhino, bar tabs, food, grocery bills, gas, all of those sorts of things. Unless your life is very consistent, you can probably say your gas is a fixed expense if you like literally drive to the same place every day.
We're talking about variables and invariables. Invariables, I'm assuming, are those things that you need to survive?
No, we're talking about your rent is $1,000 a month. That's a fixed expense, right? The amount of money you're going to spend on food is going to vary slightly, right?
Okay.
You can plan it.
So, but you can plan it, you can budget for it, right? So that brings us to budgets. How many of you have ever done a budget for yourself? Personal budgets. Okay, cool. So you basically write down how much money you're making, right? You estimate how much money you're going to make a week, a month, a year, right? And then you line up all of your expenses. And you say, okay, for rent, for car payment, for these things, all, you know, you add them all up. And then how many of you realize that you're spending more money than you're making? That is a problem. So we'll talk about this in a minute too, but the idea is it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you spend. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make that gap as big as possible. So the more money you make, the less money you spend, the more money you can save in between, right? The more money you can put towards your future and your stability. So assets, what are assets?
Assets are things that you own.
Assets are things that you own that have value.
Yeah, that don't appreciate.
That's what
Assets depreciate, of course. Depreciation is the devaluation of an asset over time, right? So an asset basically is something that you own that you can turn into cash. Some assets are easily liquidable and some are not. Some assets are very liquid, like you can literally sell your stocks tomorrow. Your home, on the other hand, you can put it up for sale, but it won't necessarily sell tomorrow. So those are the differences between assets, right? Liabilities. Liabilities are things that you owe. So these are your loans, whether it's a car payment, a mortgage, a personal loan, all of those sorts of things, right? Debt and credit. How many people know their credit score in this room? Oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. How many people are happy with their credit score in this room? That's good, that's not bad. Better question, right? All right, so debt and credit kind of go together, right? So debt is whatever you owe, right? And credit is the idea that you have the ability to buy things without spending your own money. You're borrowing money from somebody else to pay that bill, and then you're going to pay them back, right? Over time, or immediately, doesn't matter, right? So some amount of debt is good for your credit at the end of the day. Good debt, mortgages, car payments are usually pretty good, car loans. Student loans are kind of bad debt, but usually they're very low interest, so they're not a problem. But it's not something that you want to carry on forever. You don't want to carry your student loans too long. You want to get those paid off as quickly as possible, right? So once we've gotten to the point where we're managing our credit, we're managing our debt, we're managing our income and our expenses and our budgets, we can start saving money. And this is where the key is. Like, if there's anything that you take away today, it's to start saving money and start saving money now. Because there's a thing called time value of money and compound interest that will make all the difference in the world. And so once you start saving money, you can start investing that money in interest-bearing or growth investments, right? Things that will grow over time, outpace inflation, right? Everything gets more expensive every year. That's called inflation, right? We want to find a way to make our money not deflate. We want it to keep up with inflation or more, right? So the how-to, the hows. These are the things that you need to know in order to do those things, right? So banking. Everybody has a bank account, right? Please tell me you don't put all your money on your mattress. There's two things you should always have at your bank. You should have a checking account and you should have a savings account. Who has both? Good. Who puts money in their savings account every single month? Who touches their savings account too often? Never. Never. The idea is your savings account is for savings. This is for saving for a rainy day. This is saving for your future, for your retirement, for your college education, for your kids, whatever it is, right? So savings, you've got to have that savings account, and you have to pay yourself first. So if you think about this, right? You go to work, you get paid, you leave with your money. The first thing you should do is pay yourself. And that's the same thing as saving, right? When we're talking about the gap, it's paying yourself. It's paying for your future, and so you can live out your dreams and your passions, right? So, credit cards. I use my credit card all the time. Why? Because I get points, because I get to borrow somebody else's money for 30 days, but I also pay it off every single month, no matter what, unless I had a really gnarly month. I pay it off in 2 months.
You don't keep an outstanding balance.
I do not keep an outstanding balance on my credit cards. I have an auto pay on my credit card that auto pays my credit card every single month for the full balance.
That's how you get free money without interest.
Exactly. I'm borrowing the credit card's money. I'm borrowing American Express's money for 30 days. essentially, right? I'm like, cool. So my money stays in the bank and gets interest. And they're not getting any interest because I'm paying off my credit card every single month, right? Free money. And I get points. So I can fly all over the world whenever I feel like actually going on vacation, right? Loans and interest. So your credit will determine the interest that you pay on your loans, whether it's a car loan, a mortgage, or a personal loan, right? So the better your credit score means that you're more reliable and likely to pay off your loan. So the better your credit score, the lower your interest. The lower your interest, the less money it costs you to borrow that money over time, right? And whenever you have a loan, paying it off early is always a good thing because it saves you all of that interest that you would be paying. Because it works the same way as growing your money as a loan does for interest. It's growing money for the bank, if you think about it that way, right? Credit report we talked about. If you don't know your credit score and you've never seen your credit report, go to freecreditreport.com, creditkarma.com. Any of them are fine.
Credit cards also.
That was a free feature on the apps.
Yeah, a lot of credit cards will now tell you your credit score. There are 3 credit reporting agencies, right? And they can all vary differently. So if you ever see, like I look at my credit report probably like every other month or so. But if I ever see anything that's like, okay, what was that? You know, you can deal with it. I actually had an instance when I was applying for my mortgage. I got my credit score and I hadn't pulled my credit in a while. And there were 3 things on there that weren't even mine. It was like an unpaid cable bill. Somebody had used my social security number. So I had to go through the whole process of getting all of that fixed. Just a pain in the ass, but it helps. So I looked at my credit score and I went, oh shit, what happened? And it wasn't something that I did. It was somebody else actually used my social security number. So credit card fraud, or fraud in general. Retirement. Who wants to work forever? I do. I do. I want to work forever. As long as I know that family will keep me. Essentially, we want to retire. That's the goal, right? We work, we want to get old, relax, play golf, follow our passions, follow our dreams, whatever it is, spend time with our family, you know, do the things we love, travel, whatever it is. So retirement tools are really, really important. So Social Security. How many of you have seen your Social Security statements? You get your first one when you're 25, and then you get one every year after that, no? Yeah. So essentially it'll tell you how much money you paid into Social Security, government funded retirement, right? And disability.
Estimated payment should be.
And it'll tell you what your estimated payments will be if you continue to contribute to Social Security at the same pace that you're doing, right? So Social Security is one thing that hopefully you'll be able to get.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But there's no fucking guarantee whatsoever. So don't depend on your Social Security to be your monthly check when you get old. And you can't touch Social Security until how old? You can get it at 62. You can get it early. But 65 is when you should wait. It's when you get your full benefits. And you can also use Social Security for disability too. If for some reason you were to become disabled, you can pull disability from Social Security as well. So, and then you've got your typical savings tools for retirement. IRAs and Roth IRAs, right? Individual retirement account. An individual retirement account means that it's tax deferred. So that, or sorry, yeah, tax deferred. So it means that you do not pay taxes on that money that you put into this account today. You pay you pay taxes on the money when you take it out in the future, right? So the idea is if you were to put, say, $2,000 every year into an IRA, you would not pay taxes on that $2,000 this year. But it's probably going to be invested in something that grows over time, right? Somewhere between 5 and 10% ideally every year. In 40 years, let's say, that $2,000 is now $100,000. When you go to take it out of your account, you're then going to pay taxes on that $100,000, right? So, would you rather pay taxes on $2,000 or $100,000? Honestly, it goes both ways. Depends on because the idea is like in the future, you won't have quote unquote income, maybe, depending on how your retirement is set up. So you should be in a lower tax bracket, so you may pay less percentage of taxes on the money that you take out. So a Roth IRA means you pay taxes today, no taxes later on the growth. I recommend doing both. I would put money into both of them if you can. So, save more. 401k. So if you're part of a company, a 401k is basically a company or sponsored retirement plan. Usually they match a percentage of it, whether it's 3% or up to 6%. But it's the same idea. 401k is basically an IRA sponsored by your company. A SEP, self-employed plan. So it's SEP IRA. So a lot of you are consulting, right? You have LLCs. You can open a SEP and you can put a lot more money into a SEP than you can put into an IRA. So that's an option for you as well. And taxes. We all love taxes. Death and taxes, the two most certain things in life, right?
Now, what's the SEP stand for?
Self-employed plan.
Awesome, thank you.
Bloody Mary break.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about why to save money now. Time value of money, compound interest. This is like the most magical thing. Once you understand this concept, you'll be like, I want to save more money because it's powerful, right? So the idea here is we're starting with $0. So starting principal, $0. Annual contributions, $2,400. How much is that a month?
200.
Can you save $200 a month? Probably. You should be able to, right? Growth rate, 5%. Most stocks, if you were to invest over a long period of time, will average somewhere between 8 to 10%. 5% is kind of the average of more like bonds, fixed like interest, right? So 5%, very conservative growth rate over 20 years. So let's say you're 20 years old when you start saving $200 a month. 20 years in the future, when you're 40, you now have $83,000 in the bank. Is that powerful? Right? It is. It's very powerful. So the younger you are, the sooner you have this. And the more you save, the bigger that number is, right? And the more aggressively you invest it, could go either way. The market has its ups and downs. One causes smiles, the other causes frowns. Some people think it's just better to sit back and have a drink. So, all right, let's talk about the 7 easy steps to get to there, to get to this point, right? How to make a Grand Canyon, 7 easy steps, right? It feels like a big deal. It's a big thing to take on, but it's about taking the steps slowly but surely over time, right? So 1, manage your money. What does that mean? Understand your income, understand your expenses, go over your budget, pay attention. It just means pay attention to your money. Pay attention to how much you're bringing in, pay attention to how much you're spending, and pay attention to how much you're saving, right? Pay off high interest debt. What carries the highest interest?
Credit cards.
Credit cards. Credit cards are the devil. They're good if you can pay them off, right? They're horrible if you don't. If you make minimum payments, you are going to be so screwed. You're going to be so in debt to that credit card company. So be very careful. So always pay off your highest interest first. So say you have a mortgage, you've got student loans, and you've got credit card debt. Your credit card debt should get paid down first. Your mortgage, obviously you have to pay every single month no matter what, or you get kicked out of your home. And then, of course, your student loans usually carry a much lower interest rate, sometimes 0. And you can also negotiate your interest, right? So if you do have credit cards and you're paying a very high interest rate, you can call the credit card company and tell them you're going to leave unless they lower your rate. So you can do that. Build an emergency fund. Emergency funds. What could go wrong, right? Everything. Your car breaks down, you need new tires, you get into a car accident, what else? Your washer breaks, your water heater breaks. Yeah.
You break your arm or leg.
You break your arm or leg. You're out of work for a while. You're out of work for a while. You lose a job, the bar closes. You show up to work and there's a sign on the door that says, see ya, you're gone.
How big do you think an emergency fund is?
An emergency fund, minimum, should be 3 months.
Of fixed expenses.
3 months. So your minimum emergency fund should be able to get you through 3 months of being unemployed. Minimum. Ideally, 20 years. Right?
Ideally what?
Ideally 20 years. Retirement. So emergency fund should be a minimum of 3. 6 to be, if you, obviously the bigger, the better, right? But a minimum of 3 months to get you through it. So if you make $3,000 on average every month, you should have $9,000 just set aside in a savings account, earning interest that you don't touch, right? So maximize your retirement saving. So once you have enough money to say, okay, I'm pretty comfortable with my savings account, I'm comfortable with that, then you can start socking away money into your retirement accounts, whether it's your IRA or your Roth, right? You can open an IRA or a Roth online. It's super, super easy. You can do it at pretty much any financial institution online at this point. And you can have automatic payments go from your bank account into that account every single month. If there's one thing I would say take advantage of in the banking world today is the ability to do everything online. You don't have to go to the bank. You just need to sit down at your computer and transfer money from your checking account to your savings account, from your checking account to your retirement account. And you can set it up to do that automatically every single month if, at the end of every shift, you take your money and deposit it into your checking account, right? So that's the big one, right? Is getting that cash into your bank.
It's easy to do, pretty much do it at any ATM.
You can do it at any ATM, right?
You can do it.
You get off work, drive by the ATM, put your money in an envelope, send it in, right? How much money should be in that envelope?
All of it.
All of it?
According
I like
to
that.
the Constitution.
I like that. All of it? All of it is a great answer, but at least 80%. Minimum 80% of the cash that you take home every single night should go into your bank account and go into paying your bills and your savings and paying yourself, right?
It's like the idea of like when you're tithing in church.
Sure,
I tithe myself with the rest of it.
sure. It's paying yourself. It's paying yourself at the same time.
I was going to say, you can, technology today, you can set it up so it takes a percentage every Friday. You can use, there's like 4 I think, different apps now that are set up
For sure.
savings account. They'll analyze your spending pattern and
Oh, checks
what
always
the dollars.
checks out.
And there's,
Yeah, the technology is there. And part of managing your money is learning how to manage it, right? Finding the tools that make sense for you, because everybody has different ways of doing it. I've talked to some people who do an envelope system. They literally have like envelopes where they say percentages on them. So this envelope is for pay myself, this envelope is for rent, this envelope is for car expenses, this envelope is for, utilities and whatever else, right? And then this envelope is for clothing, and this envelope's for food, and they like divvy up their money, right? Into those envelopes. Yes.
Are there any apps that you know of that are good for doing things like that?
I don't use any of those apps, but
Mint is
that's
good
because I
one.
don't.
Which one is it?
Mint, same
Mint is
with
great.
QuickBooks. and-
Am I?
It's, yeah, you do it, does Mint and it'll link through all your accounts, tell you where you are, analyze your spending. There's Q Capital, which my husband and I use for saving, because you can set up with joint people. And that'll just you can set up to auto take, you can set goals, it'll analyze. And then the other one that's really good, Digit, for yourself, if you're bad at saving, it'll just, but I mean, almost every bank right now, you can set up, like, I get paid every Friday, take out $100 and transfer it to the savings account, just set it up.
Yep, for sure. There's tons of apps, and it's just finding the one that makes the most sense for you. A lot of times, even your bank will have an app at this point, right? So banking, you can use the app, and it'll help you with your accounts and whatnot. So it helps you manage all of those expenses that are going in and out. But the more money you put into the bank at the end of the day, it helps you manage your money better,
Well,
right?
you take it-
Because cash is so easy to spend, right? I put freaking money in my wallet, and it's gone. I have $1. I have $1 right now in my wallet. I've had it in my wallet for like a week.
That's why I do that then, for instance, like if I pay myself 10 or 15, whatever, 20%, but the rest out of the bank, because when your cash is gone, it's time for you to go home, like you're done.
That's
You
true.
have more money.
That's true. Kind
Like,
of that 80-20% rule too.
Card with me, I don't even.
That 80-20% rule too is if you are going to go out after your shift and give all your money back to your friends, then it should only be 20% at the most. At the most.
It's a good indication that you're done
Yep.
and start to move.
Yep. And everybody does it differently. So it's finding the right one for you. And then, so now we're looking at putting money into retirement, right? Step 4, start saving for the future. Get into tax deferred, anything that will save you taxes now and save money for later, right? So your retirement accounts. College savings, obviously this depends on if you have kids and if you're trying to send your kids to college. You should start, if you have kids, or if you're going to have kids, the day they're born, you should literally start a savings account for them for college. You can save money tax deferred. So that's an option. Lots of cool programs, state programs, 529s. There's a bunch of stuff for college savings. Pay off all your debt. So we're already paying off our credit cards, right? That's already been done. Student loans have already been done, anything high interest. So now it's paying off your car, it's paying off your mortgage. The sooner you pay off your mortgage, guess what? You own that house,
Free and clear.
you're free and clear, and you're not paying interest to the bank anymore, right? Interest is taking your money, taking more money than you owe them, right? At the end of the day, because they're saying, in order for you to borrow money for 15 or 30 years, by the way, if you do a mortgage, try to get a 15, not a 30. 15-year mortgages end up costing you a lot less in the long run, but you'll have a slightly higher monthly payment. 30-year mortgages are way too long, because you pay a lot in interest. You pay almost 3 times the value of your home in interest on a 30-year mortgage.
When you're comparing the two, make sure you get that bottom line amount.
Yeah.
That's when it
Yeah,
really
it gets
sinks in,
really
not the
powerful.
monthly.
Yeah, so basically when they give you a loan schedule, it's an amortization schedule, right? And it'll say, okay, so your principal, like say for example, your mortgage payment ends up being like $1,200 a month, right? $300 of that goes to principal to pay off the original loan, and the other $900 goes to paying off the bank, because you pay off your interest to the bank first. So the longer the loan, the more interest you pay. So the bigger that interest payment is versus the principal to pay off the actual loan, right? So same thing with cars. Shorter car loans, better. Shorter loans are always better, but it's obviously depends on how much you can afford every month, right?
I would just like to look at
What happens if you get a longer loan and pay it off later?
You can do that too, but you're still gonna pay the interest up front.
I would just like to point out for all of your cell phones, it's also what your cell phone company does for the most part. Give a free phone for them.
Pay a monthly payment.
You're paying shit, you're paying more than you buy your phone for a long trip.
Yep, exactly. I do that though, because my company pays for a portion of my cell phone bill. So I'm letting them pay for that. So I can use a free phone whenever I want. So pay off all your debt, right? And then finally invest. Once you've gotten to the point where you should already be investing within your retirement account, right? You should be investing in some money markets and things like that in your savings account, interest-bearing accounts, right? And then you're gonna get to the point where you can actually start investing, where you can buy stocks and bonds. Does everybody understand stocks? Stocks are buying basically an interest in a large corporation, right? You're buying shares of that company. So you become a owner of that company when you buy their stock. In return, that stock grows over time, hopefully, that's not guaranteed. And for like blue chips and like really big companies like say GE or Ford or whatever else, right? They're going to pay you quarterly in dividends. So dividends are basically the company saying, here's our portion of profits that are going back to you for owners. Yeah, can we pour? Can we pour, please? So, and then bonds, when you buy a bond, you're basically loaning a company or the government, if it's a government bond, you're loaning the company your money and then they're paying you interest. So it's the same way you would go get a loan from the bank, but instead you're loaning your money to that corporation or government entity and then they're paying you back in interest. Bonds are fixed rates, right? So a bond will pay 5% or 4%. And the more risky, the worse their credit is as an agency or a company, means they'll pay you more interest. So the higher risk bonds pay you more interest, lower risk bonds like government bonds, AAAs pay you lower interest, right? AAA is a rating, by the way. All right, we're gonna start to wrap this baby up. So this is kind of the wheel of money, right? So invest as much as possible, as often as possible, right? So if you're going to contribute to your IRA, I would recommend doing it every single month versus trying to put all the money in at the end of the year when it's time to do your taxes, right? Because one, it's easier to take it in small doses, right? And that means that the money's going in sooner. So any little bit that you can put in now is better than what you can put in later, right? Invest as long as possible. Time is on your side. You guys all saw that chart, right? Time value of money, compound interest. If you start saving, it grows over time. Patience, right? It's beautiful. And interest rate. So your interest rates, when you're investing your money, the more money that your money earns in the bank or in investments is better, right? But you also gotta balance that with risk, right? You don't wanna take on too much risk. Tips for saving. This is a fun slide because there's a billion different funny little ideas on here. But basically, either make more, so find ways to make more money. How can you do that? Consulting, side jobs, extra jobs, Uber driving, right?
Create an app.
Create an app, start your own business, start your own businesses, right? But think about it. In order to make more money means you need to invest more time working, right? And that depends on your desire of your lifestyle, what you want your lifestyle to look like. Because it isn't just about making money. It's about living your life and enjoying it, right? It's about having enough time for your family, having enough time for your friends, for your passions, for your hobbies, to do the things that you love, to do the things that make you happy, right? So it's finding that balance, right? If you can go after as much money as you want, you might be fucking miserable. That's not gonna do any good for you. Or spend less. And this is the idea of paying yourself first, right? When I moved to Florida from California, my dad said, Diana, you're gonna have to start living below your means. And I took that to heart and I said, well, you know what? One, I'm gonna pay off all my debt. And I did. I cut out expenses that I didn't need. I didn't even have cable for like a couple years just because I was like, why am I paying $200 to a freaking cable company to watch TV and waste my time, right? So finding the things that you can cut out of your expenses, the things that you don't need, finding ways to spend less, right? And it's understanding what's important to you at the end of the day, right? Stop collecting and start selling. Bartenders are notorious collectors, right? What do we like to collect? Spoons, glassware, booze, bitters, all sorts of cool stuff, right? And a lot of these are tricks of the trade. They're things that you need, right? But a lot of them you don't need. So if you have like a crazy Beanie Baby problem or
So what?
or you like to collect junk cars that someday you're gonna fix, you know, something along those lines. So stop collecting and start selling. So you can sell those things, those assets that you don't necessarily need, want, or use. Rewards programs, credit cards, shopping, travel. Use them. Rewards programs are fantastic. It's free money. So you spend money, you get money back, right? Essentially, you get something of value that you can spend without spending your own money, right? So use those points, use those reward programs as much as possible. 30-day rule for large purchases. Has anybody gone to the dealership to drive a car and left with the car that day? Yeah, it happens. So you should always sit on a large purchase for 30 days, at least, minimum. If you're looking at buying a house, investing in a business, doing anything that has, you know, some risk to it, and it's gonna cost you a lot of money, think about it. Not just sleep on it one night. Give it a month or so. And then the 10-second rule. So when you pick up something at the store, and you're like, this is so cool, I really want this. You know, spend 10 seconds going, do I really need this? Is this something I want? Is this worth me spending my money on, right? Would I rather put my money away for the future? Is this my priority right now? Use a shopping list. It's kind of a basic one. Stick to it. Don't go grocery shopping. Or don't go to the liquor store when you're really thirsty. Negotiate your rates and transfer balances. So we talked about this with your credit cards, right? So if you do have credit card debt where you're paying extremely high interest rates, anything basically above 12%, anything above 12% is too high. So go and negotiate those rates. Some credit cards, if you look at your statement, you could be paying up to like 30%, which is freaking insane. So negotiate those rates, call them, and tell them you're leaving, and if they won't lower your rate, then transfer the balance and get a new credit card with a lower rate. So really leave. Clean out your closet, sell, donate, live below your means we talked about, cancel subscriptions and monthly things, right? So how many times do you sign up for something you're like, oh, it's only like $10 a month, you know, yeah, I totally need that or I want that. Like I look at my like iTunes Apple receipt every month for $9.99 for music and I'm like, do I really need to spend that $10 every month to listen to music? I like it. But subscriptions, like I literally just got on my credit card statement a couple of magazines that automatically renewed and I was like, no, I didn't want those. Yes,
This might be a silly question, but I don't know.
there's no silly questions.
So I have a couple credit cards. One of them I don't, like I paid the balance off and I don't have one anymore. I don't have balance on anymore. I guess like there are things that are like on auto here that you in order to link to that account. But does transferring your balance to another card and like closing that account affect your
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
I mean,
so when you open credit and close credit cards, you should never quote unquote close your own credit card. It depends on the credit cards that you're using. Like I've had credit cards that I got when I was like 19, 18, 19, when college camps. They're like, you want a Discover card? Yes. Right? That Discover card, I stopped using it and canceled it over time, you know? And it won't affect your credit terribly, but don't close your own accounts. Let them close them for you because they're inactive.
So is it? But well,
Does that make sense?
Well,
And then it takes them years to do that.
What if you have a card that charges a yearly fee though?
Then if you're not using it, then definitely don't keep that card.
So what's worse, closing it yourself or having a number of them with no balance, which also means you have high available credit?
High available credit is a great thing. High available credit is not a bad thing.
And it builds credit history.
And it builds credit history. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you want a ratio of available credit to debt, so
Exactly.
part of why you don't want to close credit cards yourself if they don't have a fee.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there's a fee related to your credit card, an annual fee, and you're not actually using that credit card, then yeah, you know, like just let them be until, if you don't ever use them again, they'll eventually close your account.
How badly does it affect your credit if you decide to close it?
Like 30 points.
Yeah. But it comes back. But it comes back. It comes back over time. It comes back over time. It's a ding that like
And I have
goes
no
away in,
balance
like,
on any of my cards, but I have 3 cards that all have yearly fees.
Oh yeah. If you're not using them, get credit cards without yearly fees, unless it's a points program and you're actually using that.
They're
credit
all
card.
points programs, which is why I got them all.
Yeah.
And I use them all, but I probably don't need 3 of them.
Yeah, so ideally, one credit card that you have that is like your go-to point system, you can pay a fee for, but your other credit cards do not have fees. So for me, I have 2 credit cards essentially now that I use. So I use my Delta Amex, which I pay a fee for, but I get Delta points like crazy, right? And upgrades and all that jazz, so it makes my life much better, right? And then I have like a Visa, right? That has a points program, but I don't have to pay a fee for it because it's related to my bank account. And I just use that for like stuff that Amex, people don't take Amex. That's my go-to. All right, so plan your debt payoff, which we were talking about. Brown bag, whatever. regular maintenance on your car and your home. If you take care of things now, if you maintain them, they will not break down on you in a horrific, horrible, expensive way, right? So maintaining those things helps. Buy staples in bulk if that makes sense for you to go to Costco or Sam's Club or whatever, fine. Used cars. Do you know that a brand new car depreciates like ridiculously the second you drive it off the lot? And you can get very lightly used cars for a lot less expensive. So look into used cars. Coupons, online bill pay we talked about, and just look at your habits, and then finally educate yourself. Read articles about finance. You read articles, you read books about the bar business, right? Why not read a book about your money?
Actually, let's use the library.
Use the library. The library is an amazing place. It's free.
For Netflix, you can go on TV, books.
Nice. So in front of you, you have some Johnny Walker Gold. I'm going to wrap this up. If you do have questions, feel free to seek me out as we go through this weekend. I'm happy to answer any questions. But we're going to do a final toast to Johnny Walker Gold. I thought this was a very appropriate way to close our seminar today. So if the path is beautiful, ask where it leads to. But if the destination is beautiful, never mind about the path and just keep walking. which is Johnny Walker's saying, right? So Johnny Walker Gold is a celebratory blend rated by Jim Beverage. Its main single malt is from Pine Leash, which it's called gold because there's gold in the river that ran through the distillery. So Johnny Walker Gold. Cheers. Cheers. Few last things. If you did not get a vodka but pays the bills t-shirt, please come up and grab one. For those of you Tampa-based, we are hosting World Class Labs next Monday, the 12th, at the Epicurean. Like, where is it at? I'm coming to it. I don't know where it's at. So if you need an invite, if you have not RSVP'd, you can always RSVP through the USPG website as well. And also see Hannah. For those of you who are local in Orlando and Tampa markets, Hannah is our Diageo specialist, account specialist. I can't remember the titles. And then if anybody here from Jack's, yeah, we've got some Jack's people in the house. We're going to be there on Tuesday the 13th for World Class Labs. And for anybody who is in other markets and doesn't know when your lab is, feel free to ask and I'll try to find the date for you.
Check with you.
Miami was during World Class, darling.
It's probably
During
on
Globals.
the
During Globals.
It's on the website. It's on the
Yeah,
website.
they're all on the website as well.
Some of them are
And some of them have already happened. Boston already happened. I think Louisville, Nashville, Birmingham's coming up, and DC's coming up in January as well.
They do ours early now.
Yeah. Who wants to be in Boston in January? Awesome. So thank you all for your time. Have an awesome